Hello and welcome back to America's Forum on Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. Thanks so much for tuning in to check us out today. We had a great program talking with Grover Norquist, Dick Morris, and we'll have more coming up for you today, including Dr. Brownstein, a holistic health expert. But right now, we want to bring in General Michael Hayden, the former director of the NSA. We want to talk about the Sochi Olympic Games. The big headline today out of Sochi is the fact that Russian officials are taking dogs off the street, apparently, and having them killed ahead of the Olympics. As bad as that sounds, obviously, there are more important things to talk about, terrorism in the region. General Hayden, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, no, happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the geopolitical landscape in Russia right now. And, you know, this Sochi, which is in the southern part of Russia, very close to both Chechnya and to the region of Dagestan, where a lot of Islamic extremist terrorists have set up operation. Can the U.S. and Russian officials work together, especially after the Boston bombing, to keep everyone safe at these games?
Well, I actually think the games themselves will likely go off without serious incident. I think President Putin has, frankly, he has staked his prestige and his legacy on the success of these games, and obviously there is no success if he can't keep the games safe. So that ring of steel bumper sticker he's been using is probably accurate. But at what cost? I mean, the first thing you've got to ask yourself, John, is why did the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, agree to games so close to so many unsettled regions?
And so let's just pause and talk about that real quick, General Hayden, for folks who might not be as educated as yourself on, let's talk about Chechnya and how this has continued to be a thorn in the side of Putin. How far away is Sochi from Chechnya? And where do you see these Chechen rebels who have fought with Putin in the past? Do you think they're going to try something outside of this so-called protected area?
I think they will try something outside the protected area, and probably a fairly good distance outside. I mean, if you're a Russian, John, you're probably happy that the games are going to go off well and they're going to go off safely. But again, at what price? How much of the rest of the country will be made more vulnerable by the incredible security emphasis on Sochi itself? And you asked about distances between Chechnya and Dagestan and Ingushetia and so on. I mean, these are all Muslim-dominant populations. They have historic grudges against the Russians for the Russian conquest under the Tsar. These people have kind of married their nationalist fervor with a broader global jihad fervor. And, they're literally within striking distance of Sochi itself. I mean, this is an unsettled part of the world. And now the world has decided, years ago, to go ahead and bring the world to that location. So you can understand the nervousness.
There's such a long history between the United States and Russia. If you just want to go back to, let's say World War II. But obviously there's been some serious strains in that relationship, mainly the Cold War, of course. But Reagan was able to work with Gorbachev. There's clearly a more strained relationship. Times have changed. Bush and Obama have not had the same kind of clearly relationship with Putin. But do you think anything has been learned from Boston when there was clearly a chance for U.S. and Russian officials to work together because they have shared interests here? Do you think any of those lessons have been learned?
Well,
I mean, we've seen U.S. U.S. commit some assets to trying to at least keep U.S. interests safe in Sochi.
Right.
But in terms of coordination here, do you think they're able to see the bigger picture?
Right. Have we learned our lessons? And I think the answer is yes, sort of. But look, I was director at NSA and CIA for a whole series of international events, Olympics, World Cup, and so on. And for each of those events, in almost every case, there is robust international cooperation. I recall the games in Athens, the games in Milan, the games in Australia. You set up fusion cells where national organizations can sit there and share information. That's not happening, not nearly to the same level with the Sochi Olympics. Frankly, Putin's identity inside the Russian state is based upon his opposition to the West and his restoring some sense of Russian national pride. I mean, he instinctively is suspicious of the West, and particularly he is suspicious of the United States. So this is, this is not like sitting down with the Italians to protect the Winter Games in northern Italy. And so Mike Morrell, former deputy director of CIA, has said publicly, we have not had the kind of dialogue leading up to these games with the Russians that has been the historic norm. And so in that sense, it's not safe that it should be.
I guess the other question, the other way to phrase that question is not have we learned any lesson, but maybe is there any goodwill left from look at Glasnost, or you look back, Roosevelt was even able to work with Stalin. Is there any of that left between the U.S. and Russia to work together?
Very little, as I said.
So, is there any chance, and I don't know if you can answer that, but are there CIA assets or, FBI assets that might be working hand in hand with Russian officials?
Oh, no, there will be formal exchanges. But John, they won't be as intimate. It will be at what we used to call the transactional level. Here's a report, let me give you a copy, where you're sharing some of the things you know. When you really get down to deep cooperation between intelligence services trying to protect an event like this, what you really share, John, is what you don't know. And I cannot imagine the Russians revealing their lack of knowledge or their weaknesses to any other nation.
And so maybe that's at least some area of optimism to look for. One specific thing that's also got a lot of headlines, maybe just because it's a sexy way of saying this, but these Black Widow threats that you've heard so much about. How real is this threat?
Well, I mean, there's historical experience of jihadists in Russia using women as suicide bombers. So, yeah, I'd take the threat as very, very serious. Now, look, I mean, it hit the press at a time of maximum public attention. And so, if I can easily imagine the jihadists saying, let's leak a few stories like this will really get their juices flowing, and they achieve something in the response we have to these kinds of stories. But that doesn't mean the threat doesn't exist.
All right, let's shift topics real quick, Hayden. General Hayden, I want to back up, and before when the whole Edward Snowden case broke, I asked you what might be an appropriate sentence for Snowden. There's been some renewed talk about perhaps working something out with him, some sort of plea deal. Does that anger you to hear that we might be willing to negotiate with this guy?
Yeah, it does, although I fully recognize. I mean, we did plea deals with Aldrich Ames and Robert Hansen, remember? I mean, we didn't go for the death penalty. Now, I don't not mean to suggest the death penalty would be appropriate here, but plea dealing is part of the American judicial process. On a human level, on a personal level, I certainly want to see him punished to the full extent of the law, but I understand the process. What really upsets me are thoughts of amnesty or forgiveness. I mean, this young man has created incredible damage to the security of the United States, and he acts as if he either doesn't understand that or he doesn't care about that, and that is particularly angering.
Now, the last time we talked about this, you said that 40 years would be an appropriate sentence. Is that still the same for you? 40 years, kind of the ballpark figure that you're looking at? Or is there anything that you've read or seen that's changed your mind on what might be appropriate?
No, it's not. And look, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm certainly not a judge, and other people are more knowledgeable about this. But Bradley/Chelsea Manning got almost that, and what he leaked, as bad as it was, wasn't nearly as damaging as what Snowden leaked, and frankly.
And we haven't heard that a lot. I mean, you're saying that what Snowden did is far worse, far more damaging than what Manning did.
Look, Bradley Manning leaked documents from a secret-level computer system. It's called CIPRNet, Secret Internet Protocol Network. Snowden was at a much higher classification level for all the information that he touched, that he stole, and now that he's seeing to be released. So, I mean, just by definition, Snowden has got the far more sensitive data. And I should add, too.
All right, well, we'll have to pick it up at a later date, General Hayden. We're out of time here. As always, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We'll have more coming up later in the show. We have Dr. Brownstein, one of our experts. He'll be back with his Wellness Report.
Thank you, General Hayden. I'm here. You okay with me in the headset?
Hey, Dr. Brownstein, it's John Bachman here. How are you?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. Where are we talking to you? Where are you?
I'm in my office in West Bloomfield, Michigan.
Okay. You guys getting hammered with snow?
Today is nice. Tomorrow the hammer comes down.
Oof. Rough winter for everybody.
It has been rough.
So we're going to talk about testosterone increasing the risk of heart attacks. And let's see. Cholesterol. Big pharma's claim that high cholesterol equals heart disease.
It's John, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello and welcome back to America's Forum on Newsmax TV. In our Newsmax Health segment today, a new study has found that prescription testosterone raises the risk of heart attacks in older and middle-aged men with a history of heart disease. Joining me right now is Dr. David Brownstein, one of the leading practitioners of holistic medicine. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, John.
All right, Dr. Brownstein, this study seems to be one of many in recent years that highlights cardiac problems as a potential side effect of prescription testosterone. What's your take on this?
Well, John, this is one of few that have found that testosterone increases the risk of heart attacks in men. And when I crunched the numbers on this weekend, it takes a couple of hundred men to be treated with testosterone, according to the study, to cause one heart attack. I don't think that there's much validity behind this. And what I found is when using bioidentical natural testosterone as part of a holistic treatment regimen, it actually helps people with heart disease risk factors and angina, and they certainly feel better, and their heart disease risk factors get better when testosterone is used as part of a holistic treatment regimen.
And what are some of the other things that go along, you talked about this, but if you could expand on it a little bit more, some of those things that go along with, bioidentical testosterone that can help men? Is it exercise? Is it what they eat? What are some of the other things?
Well, there's no question that the hormone pathways are like a symphony orchestra. And if you just take testosterone out of that symphony, it's like taking the third flute from the left and trying to use that to correct a situation that's affecting the whole body. When I look at someone's hormone status, I look at all the hormones that are in the body and use all natural hormones to correct that system, as well as using vitamins and minerals and exercise and diet therapies. And again, when it's used as part of a holistic treatment regimen, I find testosterone a very effective part of treating cardiovascular disease. There are hundreds of studies that show low testosterone associated with the development of heart disease and correction of low testosterone improving heart disease. Now, granted, John, there are a couple of studies that have come out that have thrown some wrinkles in that, but again, my experience has been with using it as part of a holistic treatment regimen that it's very effective.
think most, we see these ads on TV for testosterone. It's becoming more and more a part of the popular culture. Is this, the advice that you're giving? Are most people getting the same advice from their doctors?
They're not, John. When I use testosterone, that you have to measure the testosterone and prescribe it appropriately. One of the problems with this study is that the testosterone that Big Pharma uses is a one-size-fits-all. It doesn't matter how big you are, how little you are, you're going to get the same dose of testosterone. That's not how I do it. It should be dosed appropriately for the patient's size and patient's age and their metabolic clearance rate. And that's one of the reasons they're having problems. They're finding these negative effects when doing the studies on the prescription testosterone.
Now, for people who are watching this, and especially men who are dealing with the issue of low testosterone, and they go to their doctor, of course, they can listen to this interview, they can read your newsletter, The Natural Way to Health, but what are some of the questions that they should be asking to their particular doctor, man to man, to make sure that they're getting their testosterone treatment done the right way?
Well, the biggest question they can ask is, are you going to check other hormones in my body? Because there's a host of other hormones that interact with testosterone, including thyroid hormone and adrenal hormones like DHA and pregnenolone and progesterone. And all these need to be checked, and all these need to be optimized to get the best results. To just pull one of the hormones out of there and to expect that to create miracles in the body is really a fool's gold. It's just not going to work. It needs to be done in a complete holistic picture, and that's what I write about in my books and my newsletter and on my blog.
All right, so that's a great reason why you want to go ahead and subscribe. Let's talk about another issue that you address in your newsletter, The Natural Way to Health, and that's the relationship between cholesterol medications and the claims that Big Pharma is making that high cholesterol is automatically an indication that you're in trouble for heart disease. Talk to me about why this storyline is flawed.
Well, we've been sold a bill of goods that if you have cholesterol, that you're going to develop heart disease, and that you need to lower your cholesterol to its lowest number possible to prevent getting heart disease. And that's been written about pretty much since the 1950s. And yet what they don't tell us is that 50% of people who suffer heart attacks have low cholesterol levels. And that means, of course, 50% of high cholesterol levels. Well, if cholesterol was causing all this heart disease risk, we would expect 100% to have high cholesterol levels, and that's just not the case. The studies that Big Pharma claims that using statin medications to lower cholesterol levels lowers your risk of heart disease are totally flawed. I write about that in my books and in my newsletter. It takes 200 to 300 men to take a cholesterol drug to prevent one non-fatal heart attack. That means 199 to 299 men didn't get any effect with it. These drugs are 99% failure rate for most who take them, and they really, in my view, should be pulled from the market, and I don't think anyone should be on them for any reason. They're associated with too many side effects. They don't lower the risk significantly enough of heart disease, and cholesterol, it does not cause heart disease. We need cholesterol in our bodies. If cholesterol levels are elevated, we need to undergo a thorough search of why they're elevated. Perhaps it's a poor diet, perhaps it's lack of exercise, perhaps the hormonal system is out of balance. And by balancing the hormonal systems, by exercising, by eating a better diet, cholesterol levels will naturally adjust themselves to where they should be. To use a medication that poisons an enzyme, a crucial enzyme in the body, and expect a good long-term result is another fool's gold search.
All right.
Just not there.
And so if I'm going to my doctor and I don't have the ability to drive to West Bloomfield, Michigan, where you are right now, to go see you, and I want to question my doctor who might be telling me the same thing that we're hearing from these big pharmaceutical companies, what are the questions that you ask your doctor to make sure you are getting the treatment that you suggest, and what are some things we should look for in our doctors to make sure that we're getting that type of treatment?
Well, John, number one, I hope if you go to your doctor, you'll bring in my newsletter and my book, and then you can have your doctor look at this and read why the data is flawed on cholesterol medications. But again, asking the doctor, is this going to lower my risk of a heart attack? And they should be able to tell you that it's going to take 200 men to take this drug for 3 to 5 years to prevent one non-fatal heart attack. Well, if you think about those numbers, is that really worth it when 199 men took it and they didn't get any effect with it? Unfortunately, most doctors aren't aware of how to look at these numbers. And again, that's why I try and educate people and write my newsletter and write my articles so you can have the knowledge and you can find the right doctor that'll work with you.
And some specific things that people can do today without even having to go to their doctor. Just give us, if they are taking these types of medications to deal with their cholesterol, what are some other things that they can do to improve their situation health-wise?
Well, the two biggest things they can do is, number one, exercise. Exercise helps out everything, helps increase blood flow, it helps increase lymph drainage. And number two, they can eat better. They can get rid of the refined foods that are really making us, the most obese people on the face of the planet. And that includes breads and pastas and cereals, and eat a whole food diet. From organic food sources without pesticides and without hormones in it. And really just doing those two things will help nearly every condition that's out there, including heart disease.
And still yet, it may sound to folks like we're beating the drum again over and over, maybe repeating the same thing we hear, but still the American public doesn't seem to want to do that. Why, David, is it still so hard to get people just to do those two simple things with all this health advice we get out there, just to eat right and do a little exercise?
Well, number one, people aren't getting that advice from their doctor, and the doctors have been brainwashed into prescribing these drugs that don't have any good long-term effects, and statin drugs have never been shown to prolong anybody's life. And so you go to your doctor and he scares you and he tells you got to take this drug or you're going to have a heart attack and die. And that's just not the case. Those are scare tactics. That's not logic. That's not the truth, and that's not what the studies show. But the biggest thing they can do is educate themselves. That's why I write my newsletter for Newsmax. That's why I want to get the word out there, and that's why I'm here, is to educate you so you can make better decisions on your health.
Now, aside from Newsmax Health, if somebody wants to get your book, tell us a little bit more about it and where they can go to pick it up.
So I've written 11 books, and the book about cholesterol is in drugs that don't work and natural therapies that do, and it's on my website.
Well, you can find more from Dr. Brownstein. We lost his Skype signal there a little bit, but you can, of course, find more from Dr. Brownstein, of course, on NewsmaxHealth.com, one of our regular contributors and guy we trust for information. That's going to do it today for America's Forum on Newsmax TV. Got a big show as well tomorrow. Please join us from noon until 3 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be joined by Newsmax senior editor David Patton, also former Congresswoman Cleta Mitchell, and pain management specialist Dr. Melanie Rosenbaum. Plus, I have a special interview with former New York Governor George Pataki. We'll talk about how proud he was to see New York pull off the Super Bowl, plus some other issues that the GOP is having to deal with. It's been a pleasure spending these 2 hours with you, and hope you can join us every single day. I'm John Bachman, and for all of us here at America's Forum, thanks for watching.